I'm Tracey Scharmann, the District Career Connected Learning Coordinator for Vancouver's Career and Technical Education Department. And welcome to CTE Know Before You Go. CTE stands for Career and Technical Education. And what do you need to know and where are you going? Well, that's why we're here in this podcast, because we want to help our middle school and high school students help figure it out, learn about all the different options that are out there. So we meet with employers, we meet with teachers, we meet with people who are doing really cool things and loving the career that they're in. Today's podcast is pretty special. Part of my job is helping employers set up internships for our students. And this year, CTE decided to walk the walk, and we got our own intern, and he's awesome. He's been instrumental in launching our Instagram account. So follow us at VPS_CTE to learn about all the different opportunities we have out there in the community. We have a ton of awesome work-based learning opportunities, and Carlos is helping us get the word out to students about them, and he's giving us a student perspective on how to phrase these things and get the word out to you guys. So the best part of doing an internship is trying out new things. So today, Carlos Gomez, our CTE intern, is going to take over our podcast and interview one of his favorite teachers. Before I turn it over to Carlos and his special guest, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself, Carlos.
Hi, my name is Carlos Gomez. I am a junior at iTech Prep, and this is actually my first time doing a podcast. I've never been on one or conducted one. And I'm going to be interviewing one of my favorite teachers growing up for middle school, Mr. Zingale. And growing up in middle school, he was one of my favorite teachers because I loved all the projects and just the way he would teach us. And it was like a very unique way. Not a lot of teachers taught like that. And one of my favorite memories and projects that we did was actually one of the Japanese internment camps that we did, where we had to build a model for NHS. And it was my favorite because it was really the first time that we were able, given the responsibility to build a model. And what me and my team did for it was we kind of did a tower. I don't know if you remember, Mr. Z. We did our Japanese internment, and we built kind of a tower with barbed wire around it to represent it. And we added a lazy Mary on the bottom so it can do a 360 spin. Yeah, and it turned out pretty good, but it was nice. And for those of you who don't know Mr. Zingale, he is a teacher at iTech right now. He's one of the first teachers that have been there, and he teaches middle school history. He's also the 2019 Washington History Teacher of the Year and the Hip Story Network teacher. And one of the questions that I have is, what got you into teaching, Mr. Z?
Well, thank you, Carlos. That's an interesting question because teaching is actually a second career for me. I worked for the Albertsons company for 17 years. Actually, when I was about, sophomore year, I was 15, my dad said, "You want a car, get a job." And so I went to the grocery store and I, shagged shopping carts, and I worked my way up through the company and went to college, ended up getting a history degree, and not becoming a teacher then because as someone that was paying for college themselves, I couldn't take the time off of work to then do the internship program and mentorship that you need to do, the student teaching that you need to do at that time. And so I still got my history degree, but then I was an apprenticeship with Albertsons to become a manager and stuff like that. And so that all happened in Illinois. And then I moved out west, and same kind of with Albertsons, and wasn't necessarily happy in my job anymore. I was about 30, I'd met my wife, and I'd always wanted to be a teacher. And I actually contacted my old high school history teacher that I still talk to and kind of got some advice from him. My mother-in-law is actually a teacher as well. And, it's tough sometimes when you've been doing a job for 17 years to say goodbye to everything that and being a new husband and everything, and saying, that's definitely a new journey. And it was very scary to start, but, I got my teaching degree then at University of Portland, and I haven't looked back. I love my job more than anything. And just while you're telling that story, it's those projects, that real type of learning that excites me. And it's creating those memories for children like you who are going to be our future leaders, and being able to talk about that process that you just did, and the things that you remember. Those are the important things. I believe our country needs active citizenship. And so for me, history is also that, right? We're not going to learn all of history and memorize all of it, but what we can do is create students that know how to ask questions and how to answer those questions and how to engage in civil conversations with one another. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm passionate about. And it makes me like through the roof when I hear you and other students tell those stories about what you remember from our class.
Yeah, it was really nice. And what was the reason that you moved out here? Did you move out here because Albertsons were sending you over here,
No, just, at certain points in your life, you're looking for new and different things. I was tired. Like, honestly, my best friend had moved up to Seattle and I went to visit, and I grew up on the East Coast, and I came out to Seattle during December and I'm like, wait, this is winter. And like, I had a spring coat on because in Chicago, it's really cold during the winter. And when I got back home, I'm just like, okay, it was like 9 degrees outside. And I'm just like, I'm done with Chicago winters and Chicago summers. And I'm just like, it was time for a change. And, luckily I had a position that I could get hired out here, and I just kind of packed everything into my car and drove. And I'll be honest, like, that's scary, right? But for people out there, like, you don't have to know what you want to do when you're 16, 17, 18. People change careers. And that's sometimes where we experience the most growth, though, I think, too, is where we learn the most about ourselves in those situations. But I love that the CTE program here at VPS and what it's giving this hands-on learning experience to students like yourself across the district, too.
Yeah. And I've noticed on your Twitter that you had like a lot of information on there, and that you're a Hip Story Network teacher. Can you explain a little bit what that is?
Yeah, so I think you alluded to it a little bit in there. You said I teach differently, and I like to think that is true. And so I know growing up for me, a lot of history was reading from a textbook, answering the end of chapter questions, and then like you would take a test every now and then. I see Tracey, Ms. Scharmann shaking your head. That's how history was for so many different years. And like, it didn't fascinate me. Then in high school, I had a teacher that challenged me, right? And we read different things. He taught it like a college course. And I remember every single one of his classes. I still actually have the papers I wrote for him and other projects that I did. And so my idea was I want to being at iTech as well, where I teach is a project-based hands-on school. And so HIPSTORY stands for hands-on, individualized project-based history. We want to be able to teach multiple perspectives about a topic. We want students to see themselves in their history. And so it shouldn't just be this one white male version of history that we've been accustomed to learning. If you want to study Japanese internment, we need to learn that happened. We need to, study the Holocaust. We need to understand that Thomas Jefferson enslaved people. Some of those hard history lessons that are not necessarily taught, but allows you also in projects to study different things, right? If you remember that, like you got to pick your topic, right? When you wrote a letter to your congressperson a couple of years ago for me, you picked that topic, right? We looked at the Bill of Rights, and you said, well, what about this? And it's about giving students that ownership of their own learning, because you're going to be more interested and invested in a topic that's important to you.
Yeah.
And so that's what HIPSTORY is. This idea that I'm not the gatekeeper of all the information. I just facilitate the learning and make it hands-on for you. Like, you're going to become a historian, an amateur historian in the process.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I like, that we were able to choose our topic, what kind of idea model we wanted to use, and other things, and not just given this certain topic and made to read books and stuff like that. And one of the things that I also like is that you like to give yourself like that kind of perspective and ask yourself, like, would I want to be in my own class? And what kind of gave you that self-awareness?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the crux of my thing, is like, would I want to be a student in my own class? Like, because school can be boring. And look, not every student is going to like my class, and that's okay. But my job is to try to make my subject matter and stuff as engaging as possible, and to get kids interested in history. Why do we study it? So we can make more informed decisions later on in life. One day, Carlos, very shortly, like, you're going to be able to vote, and we want you to be able to make informed decisions about that, because that stuff matters. As we see election after election now, some of these elections are so close, right? And people say, like, my vote doesn't matter. That's a terrible philosophy to have, because it really does matter. But we want people to also be informed in their decisions. And so I try to make it as engaging as possible, and provide multiple perspectives, understanding that Black Americans have grown up with a different history than I have. Women have a different experience in our country than I have. Hispanic and Latino students have a different perspective and society that they grow up in than I do. And that's okay, right? Our job is to understand all of that and learn and grow from it.
Yeah, and obviously with all the good teaching and everything, do you have any like bad experiences as a teacher?
We've had a couple projects that didn't go so well, I think. That's for sure, right? But that's part of the process and ethos that I want you to see too, is like, hey, we had a couple projects not go great, but we still learned things, right? We can still learn when things don't go well. In fact, I would argue sometimes we learn more, right? If something goes poorly for us, I don't want to do that next time. Or, you see it in our classroom, it's the fail, right? It's our first attempt at learning. We're not going to get things correct the first time all the time, and that's okay. We can make mistakes in life and learn from them, and then be better learner, better person, better citizen, in all of those different things. And so, there's been bumps along the road, but also, like, when we have these days where, we have students that are graduating that still have the pocket constitution that I handmade for them, like, that's the stuff that means the world to me, because they're hanging on to that. They're gonna know that if they see something, they can go back and reference that. And that's something that outlives me, and that's exactly what I want students to take away from the class.
Yeah, and I always liked your class. I know sometimes, I wasn't the best student. I know I was a little distracting, a little talk. And I for a lot of the assignments, it was fun. It was hard. I remember like a lot of the building ones where you had to use models. It was pretty hard, because that was like the first time that I was given like being able to actually build something. So
Yeah, it's different. I'm part shop class, I'm part art class, I'm part technology class, right? Like, we made a 360 tour. You created 3D scans of artifacts.
yeah.
That's stuff that normal schools may not have that chance to do, but by exposing you to those different things, we allow you to see something that you might be passionate about. And so maybe this podcast thing takes up, but it's like, hey, you know what? I'm also interested in politics. So maybe I end up doing a politics podcast, or reaching out to people in my community and helping them do a podcast to talk about social issues. And so there's no one steadfast career these days, right? We don't know what half the students, the career circuit, like, they may not even exist yet. And so that's why my job is to just try to expose you to these different things. And I'm going to have high expectations, but my job is to help you get to that place, even if it does take us a couple attempts.
Yeah. And you like to use like a lot of technology. I remember like in class, we would always do like our tests on Google Forms. And I actually remember that project where we did like the 3D thing, and where we just had to hold the tablet and go slowly all the way around our artifact.
Yeah. That's one of the coolest things about our school, is a lot of the projects we do is they are real world. So you can actually go to Fort Vancouver's website. We're official partners with the National Park Service. There's not many schools that can say that. And you can view student work. We created a 360-degree virtual reality tour. And Carlos did, I'll go out for view, but like, we 3D scanned artifacts. This is a fake one, but the scans that like Carlos made, we also partnered up with a school on the East Coast in Virginia that color 3D printed these artifacts for us. And so through that project, that's something that I had never even thought of, right? We're now cross collaborating with another school across the country and giving other students a chance to learn, CTE digital technology skills that wasn't possible 10 years ago. And so that to me is the coolest thing. And like I said, it's those memories, creating learning experiences that you're going to remember. Some of them may be good, some of them may be bad, but they're all going to be valuable as you move forward in life as a learner.
Yeah, and I also remember a couple of the field trips that we used to go on. I remember going to the Fort Vancouver, and I don't really remember the name, but we went to this National History Day.
Oh, we went to the Washington State History Museum. Yeah.
Yeah, the museum. Mm-hmm.
Yep, up in Tacoma. And yeah, I think we were supposed to go to Mount St Helens too, but I kind of think that one got canceled the one year. I don't know. We had to cancel last year's. So
I think I remember going up to a mountain though.
no, your grade we did get to go, and that was fun, right? Like taking kids up to Mount St Helens, and even though it's so close to where we live in Vancouver, about half the kids had never been up there before, and so exposing kids to these different things, getting outside, going hiking. We teamed up with a science teacher, and we did nature hikes, and we were looking at different biomes and stuff, and we were studying the terrain. And we brought scientists in to talk to you about the science of the eruption and what we've learned from that. But we also learned that like people experience the eruption in different ways too, right? I think you guys did interviews with someone about their experiences, right? So
yeah, I think so.
You were the historian creating the primary source material, and that's the type of learning we try to provide for you guys.
Yeah, and I always like that. And it's nice seeing you in the building too. And it was great having you. I appreciate you taking the time and being here with us, Mr. Z. I'll probably see you tomorrow. But
yeah, I will be here. And I will say it's so nice. We're finally in the big building where we can see all the students at once. It's been the dream of iTech for a long, long time. And hopefully once we get through all of the coronavirus and COVID, we'll be able to have our big events at school and stuff like that. But it's always great to see, some people always ask, well, why middle school? And I love it. I get to act like I'm 12 sometimes. But it's nice to see like when the students come back, like Carlos, you're growing up, and it's great to see you evolve as a person and as a learner. And it's phenomenal to see. That brings a huge smile to my face. So.
Yeah, and it's nice seeing all of you guys, all my old teachers. And being able to graduate from there, it'll be nice. And I can't wait. We continue?
No, I can't wait for that. Like that next year, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it'll be nice. And all the old students that that's since sixth grade, all the people that are being here, being able to graduate with them. And I just have one more question, and it's about the bow tie. The bow tie Tuesday.
You caught me on a Wednesday, so I'm just wearing my history t-shirt today. That's something I've always loved bow ties. I don't know why. Like I grew up with Bill Nye, and I don't know. They're fun. So for those that don't mean, I do bow tie Tuesday and formal Friday. I worked in places where it was always casual Friday, and I'm different, so I go the opposite of that, and I go formal on my Fridays, and it's just it's fun. And there's days where the kids will dress up and wear bow ties too, and stuff like that. But all I want to do is just be a positive role model to all of our students, and have some fun. And I have some little style with it, which apparently rubs off a little bit here and there, which is fun. But it's just a way to integrate and associate with the kids. So.
Well, Carlos, you did a fantastic job hosting your first podcast. So I'm so glad that you took the opportunity. And I think like Mr. Z said, you don't need to know what you want to do when you're 16. You just need to know that you don't know what's out there, and keep searching and looking for those opportunities. We strive to give our students hands-on opportunities and choices so that they can find their voice and passion, and like Mr. Z said, engage in the civic conversation to make our world a better place. So really appreciate you being here today, Mr. Z. Carlos, excellent job. So thank you for joining us on CTE Know Before You Go. We'll see you next time.